Warriors are the favorites to sign him in free agency this offseason. Well, that's interesting considering the Warriors don't have cap space this offseason. They only have a couple of exceptions to use, and Naz Reed might be more expensive than those said exceptions. But the people out west think that there's a realistic chance that the Warriors add Jelly Fam Naz to the lineup next season. They have him listed as plus 175 to add Naz Reed, and followed by the Brooklyn Nets, who do have cap space at plus 220. The Hornets, who have definitely a little bit more than Golden State, at plus 285. The Lakers at plus 375. They need more size. And the Raptors at plus 525. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how betting odds work, plus 175 would mean that if you bet $100 and Naz Reed did sign with the Warriors, you would win back $175. So pretty close to even odds there if you're, looking at these from a broad perspective. Like, that's a pretty, heavy favorite with Golden State at plus 175 here. So let's explore the prospect of signing Naz Reed. Now, we'll get into more of the financial aspects a little bit later, but what's coming in this summer is that Naz Reed's probably going to decline this player option. It's the league-wide expectation of $15 million, and he's clearly outplayed that contract to this point. I think Naz Reed in Golden State would be an excellent fit as an immediate floor spacer, somebody who can put the ball on the deck at a super high level and score everywhere on the basketball court. Look, what he brings overall, true 3-level scoring ability, both off of the bounce and on the catch and shoot. Now, he's probably a much more effective player off of the bounce. Is that the most conducive to Golden State style? No, but they also need a guy who can just go get a bucket, specifically go get his own jump shot when the half-court offense isn't exactly getting an open look for Steph or somebody off of the ball. So to have somebody like Naz Reed in town would be awesome as a guy who can just size up a defender, get past them, finish at the rim, or create some space for a jump shot. He's got elite ball handling. I'm not joking. This is a 6'9" Jordan Clarkson we're talking about here, who is really not common in the NBA. When you see these type of demigod, big-time floor spacers that are really tall, like a Kristaps Porzingis, they don't have the quick first step like Naz Reed does. He's almost like Kevin Durant, Jordan Clarkson, hybrid at a 6'9" level, but he can bang down low a little bit as well. And he's got elite finishing ability at the rim, really crafty. He can do the up and unders, adjusting in the air. Very acrobatic player, again, for his 6'9" frame. But I'd be lying if I told you that he was an elite defender. He's not the best defender overall, but with the size and length that he has the profile to be a good team defender. Has he shown the willingness to do so in Minnesota? Not all the way, but I believe, with the backbone of Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, he can easily be molded into a good and mobile, switchable defender in Golden State. And the numbers have backed it up for Naz Reed over the past couple seasons. He's clearly gotten better. Just 25 years old at this point, but season after season, he continues to get better and more efficient. Look, he's increased his three-point volume a ton this past season, so the percentages went down, but there's still nothing to shake your head at. 38% from three is very respectable. It's above league average, and this is a player who was the sixth man of the year back in 2023-2024, where he shot 42% nearly from three-point range. He's not going to be the best rim protector, but he'll give you a block a night, and this is a player who has shown up in the postseason each of the last 2 years. And to be honest, this is kind of where I'm looking at where he's going to affect Golden State the most, because in minutes or in these long stretches, these long series where Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, these older players in Golden State's rotation are going to get tired over a certain amount of time, Naz Reed can step in there and be an energizer and be somebody who can take over for stretches, as I'm sure he feels ready to kind of accept a bigger role with a new team at this point, as he's currently behind Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle. He shot 40% from three-point range this past playoffs. Yeah, I'll take that in Golden State. Also 50% overall from the field. Has that float game and can finish at the rim. He's awesome. He's not going to be the best rebounder overall, but we're looking at an offensive explosion if we're going to be signing Naz Reed, and specifically from beyond the arc, where he is uber efficient in 2024-2025. No wonder he's going to be commanding a bigger paycheck. From the catch and shoot, he actually was his worst mark out of all these advanced numbers here. 36% on catch and shoot three-point attempts, but in the corner, that number went up to 37.8. Above the break, which he had a crazy volume here, and this figure, 38.1% from above the break, is really, really good in the NBA. Again, especially for a 6'9" player. Yeah, and the pull-up 3%, this is where things get kind of freaky. The off-the-bounce three-point percentage. His pull-up three percentage, 39%. Now, he didn't shoot too many of them, but 11 of 28 is really, really solid. Step back 3 percentage. This one is disgusting. He shot 49 step back threes last season, and he shot them at a 50% clip. That is unreal. And if that was a part of Golden State's rotation, yeah, they would definitely feel it and see more wins. Look, the Warriors could also give Naz Reed the opportunity that he's looking for this summer. I think the Wolves can sign him to probably more money than a lot of these teams can, but they can't give him the opportunity and the role that he's asking for. And that's probably to be a starter at this point. He continues to come off the bench for Minnesota, and I thought, with how effective he is offensively, especially in that Thunder series in the Western Conference Finals, like Naz Reed should have been getting more looks, and I'm assuming that he's going to be in the market to land in a place where he can get those looks this upcoming season. And the Warriors could be that place. Remember what Shams said about what Golden State's going to be targeting this offseason. He said the Warriors will be incredibly aggressive in the marketplace to go find help to continue to retool around this big three. I'm told their priority is finding a playmaking wing defender or center to add to this group. I mean, if you're looking at a player who can give you a multitude of different assets, then look no further than Naz Reed. And look, it's not going to be easy to go out there and acquire Naz. Like Mo Dackel of Bleacher Report just says, plain and simple, he can command a salary starting in the range of $20 million a season. So it is not going to be easy. We know Golden State has zero cap space at this point. And they also don't have a $20 million exception to go sign a player on their books. So it's going to take some maneuvering and some negotiating to go out there and land Naz Reed. But if Bovada's listing them as the favorite to potentially go out there and get him, then they definitely know something, and this is definitely possible. We'll keep you guys updated all offseason long as we're constantly bringing you guys Warriors content every single day, whether it's news, rumors, what have you. It's going to heat up as we get deeper and deeper into the offseason. I want you to lock us in as the #1 spot for Warriors content. Go down below and hit that big red sub button and join us on the road to 100,000 subscribers. We're almost at 96K. We're going to get to how this Naz Reed acquisition goes down in just a moment, but I got to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform because it's daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. All you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats. Whether it's basketball, baseball, hockey, you got playoffs in full force right now. You can win up to 2,000 times of cash. Like no joke. You can turn $1 into 2 bands. It's crazy. And you can combine and mix and match all those sports in a lineup if you want to. Prize Picks always want to make it easier for you guys as well, where they offer incredible deals like Taco Tuesday, where they slash player stat projections, or Flex Friday, where if you lose your lineup, they give it back to you in promo funds up to $20. Now, for my lineup in Game 1 of the finals coming up here, I got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander more than 33.5 points. If it was 37.5 points, I'd still be taking them more. Give me Isaiah Hartenstein more than 7 rebounds, and then Tyrese Halliburton more than 9 assists. Tail my picks or fade them. Just make sure you go and do it at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code CLNS for $50 instantly when you place your first $5 entry. You don't need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. All that information will be clickable down in the comment section and description of today's video. Look, it's not going to be easy for Golden State to sign Naz Reed outright. It's actually going to be quite impossible to do so. But it's not going to be possible for many other teams around the NBA. If you look at what the salary cap tracker looks like for this offseason, the Brooklyn Nets, way ahead in the lead, projected to have about $56 million in cap space. Could they sign Naz Reed? Yeah, sure. But does he want to go play in Brooklyn? I don't know. Who knows? He's from the area. Detroit, they have $25 million in cap space. They could give something like that to Naz Reed, but that would be all their cap space, and then what would they do thereafter? Who knows? I don't know. They're another young team. They could use a player like him to go create off of the bounce next to Cade Cunningham. Memphis, $17 million. See, I think we're already cut off from what Naz Reed will be commanding in free agency. I don't think he's going to be getting less than $17.5 million. So with Chicago there at 14, New Orleans at 12, and everybody else way below that, nope, not a lot of teams. 2 teams are going to be able to sign him in free agency outright. Is that going to happen? Maybe, but I think it's more likely that we see a sign and trade where a team can shed some money and bring in a big Naz Reed contract. And like I said, the Warriors don't have the money on their books to just be able to go and do this right now. Obviously, Naz Reed makes more than $8.8 million, and I don't even know if you can use a trade exception in a sign and trade. The non-taxpayer mid-level exception, again, going to be just not rich enough for Naz Reed's pockets, and then the biannual won't even be close. So, Golden State's going to have to maneuver a sign and trade to go out there and get Naz Reed. Now, the item number one that Golden State fans need to come in contact with is that the Warriors will be losing Jonathan Kuminga in this scenario, and he very well might be included in a potential deal to get this done, and hopefully, or maybe going to a third team, because I don't think that he would be going to Minnesota. I would assume that Minnesota would probably rather pay Naz Reed than Jonathan Kuminga, but who knows? I think that they carry pretty similar value across the league, especially with Kuminga only being 22 years old. But we do have a mega trade idea that gets it all done. So walk with me here because it's a lot. The Warriors would receive Naz Reed and sign him to a $27 million a year contract. Now, the numbers, I found this exact framework on Fanspo, but I took the money down a little bit because it had Naz Reed making $34 million a year, and it had Jonathan Kuminga making $30 million a year. So if this money adjustments actually make this trade impossible, then I'm sorry, but those two guys aren't getting those figures in free agency this summer. So the Warriors get Naz Reed on a $27 million a year deal. I would assume 4 years. And then D'Anthony Melton, I don't know, I guess you make this trade somehow work with D'Anthony Melton as well because the Nets are involved. He is under contract with them at this point, but he will be unrestricted. So, again, I'm not so sure how it all works out, but on Fanspo, it came up with a success. So the Warriors get Naz Reed and D'Anthony Melton, who they had at the start of this past season, and I'm sure they have interest in bringing back for next year, granted that he stays healthy. The Timberwolves will get a wing that they're kind of, desperately needing at this point in Cam Johnson, along with Drew Timme and Quentin Post. And, you're going to see here the Warriors are giving up quite a few players. The Nets will receive Jonathan Kuminga, and I know it's small down there, but Buddy Hield is a big name that's going away in this deal, as well as Trace Jackson-Davis, Leonard Miller, Jalen Clark, who showed some solid stuff for Minnesota previously, and then the 2027 Golden State first-round pick, going to be unprotected. That's the last year of Curry and Jimmy and Draymond's contracts. So it's a lot. Golden State's losing a lot of players here. I believe they'd only be left with 7 active contract cats after this is all said and done. So it's not going to be, particularly the deepest lineup or the 13-man, 14-man rotation that we saw at the start of 24-25. But we all knew that probably wasn't feasible long-term, and Golden State cut their thing down eventually after the Jimmy Butler trade and was a much better team because of it. So after that trade, and you look at this potential rotation, already reported early this offseason that the Golden State Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga will be exploring sign-in trade options this offseason. However, we know that Joe Lacob, the owner of the Golden State Warriors, has an affinity for Jonathan Kuminga and is likely to not let him walk for nothing. So even though he could go to a team like the Brooklyn Nets to absorb a bunch of cap space there and he can get a big deal, I do think that Joe Lacob will probably end up threatening to match any deal that Jonathan Kuminga goes out there and signs in hopes of recuperating some assets back to Golden State. And this all kind of came to a head when Steve Kerr went on a 48-hour media tour and said this on Tim Kawakami's podcast. He said, "I've been asked to win, and right now he's not a guy I can say I'm going to play 38 minutes with the roster that we have. Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond, and put the puzzle together that way and expect to win." And right off the bat, I want to make it very clear that he's saying this in all basketball terms only. This is all basketball related. He said on a personal level that Jonathan Kuminga and Steve Kerr have a great relationship with each other, and this is all just business and fitting puzzle pieces in the puzzle at the end of the day. And at this point, it just doesn't seem like Jonathan Kuminga is going to do that. And now a lot of Warriors fans on Twitter are like, "Oh, he said 38 minutes. Well, you can play 25." Well, I don't really want to pay a guy $25 million who's only going to play 25 minutes. Honestly, I want that to be starter level money, and I don't know if Jonathan Kuminga could start with this crew at this point. And just for both sides, it just feels like the best case scenario is a sign and trade. Golden State gets some assets back, and Kuminga is able to have a fresh start elsewhere. And I'm sure the Warriors will let Kuminga and his representation go out and find a destination that they feel comfortable going and signing with, and then the Warriors will be able to figure out a deal with that organization. An NBA scout told ESPN the best thing that happens to him is if they sign and trade him. And I don't want to come on every single show where we talk about this idea and just rag on Kuminga, because I do think that there is a good basketball player in there. I just don't think it's with a team like the Warriors, with the amount of structure that they have. It needs to be more free-flowing. Jonathan Kuminga needs to have the ball in his hands a whole heck of a lot, and he just won't have that opportunity with the Dubs. Steve Kerr did say this as well. He said, I think there's got to be a part of JK that thinks about going elsewhere. Yeah, when you're DMPing him in the last couple of games of the season, of course he would think about going elsewhere. He probably already envisions himself in a new city come this fall, and it makes total sense, right? Because Kuminga should believe in himself. In the opportunities that he's gotten, especially the opportunities before he got hurt back in January, he was putting up the numbers that Warriors fans were anticipating this season. The 10 games before he suffered that ankle sprain, he was putting up over 20 points a game. He was shooting the 3 ball at an efficient clip, which means he was shooting it with confidence. I feel like a lot of the reason that Kuminga's production dips when he's put in these weird situations is because his confidence is just in the gutter. And when he was given the keys to go out there and produce, he put up some solid numbers. But at the end of the day, the Warriors weren't winning those games, and I just don't think he's going to be the winningest player when it comes to Golden State's championship pursuits over the next 2 seasons. But with that being said, I have no ill will towards Kuminga. I hope he has a ton of success, whatever stop he has next in his NBA career. And if you want to wish him well and you want Kuminga to get a fresh start elsewhere, go down below and hit that thumbs up icon, show him some love, and let him know the Dub Nation has his back. When we look at what Golden State needs on the basketball court, when as far as translating this to what Chicago can bring Golden State in a trade, well, Golden State obviously needs size in the front court, and the player that we're talking about today isn't going to address that, but I do think that Golden State could still make improvements in that area elsewhere this offseason. What about shot creation? We're going to address that. Ball handling. I do think that too many players on Golden State's roster have been thrust into situations that they're not necessarily capable of handling at a really high level. Is Brandon Majemski the best on-ball player for Golden State? I feel like he's more of a connecting piece than a guy who can dominate the rock. Buddy Hield was thrust into that role as well, and granted that was due to Steph's injury and whatnot, but I don't want him having the ball in his hands for long stretches either. Steph, you want him to be off of the ball as much as possible, and even with Draymond Green and his offensive capabilities at this point, I don't know if he's the best to be dominating the rock. So you need more ball handling, you need more shot creation, you need more floor spacing overall. There was too many times this postseason that Golden State just could not hit shots, and they went on super long stretches of scoring droughts. That just can't happen anymore. And with the amount of production and the effort that Steph and Jimmy are putting in at this point, some other guys need to come up and pick up the slack. And they also need a point of attack defender. I'm not sure if that will be addressed in today's trade idea, but they're going to need somebody who can defend on the ball. GP2, we saw him kind of decrease in that department as the postseason went on. He was kind of getting fried by a bunch of guards, and Moses Moody, he's just so up and down when it comes to whether or not he can even get out there on the floor for Golden State. So they need another guy who can go out there and defend in the backcourt as well. So as far as the trade idea that we're talking about with the Chicago Bulls today, it's going to address a couple of those needs for Golden State. We're bringing Coby White to the Bay Area, the hot shot scoring point guard from the Chicago Bulls, and sending Jonathan Kuminga over there. And remember, to make a Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade work, he goes out for basically double of what Golden State can bring back in when you want to match salaries for a trade. So if he was to go to Chicago, he'd be making around $25 million, where Coby White is on a $12.5 million expiring deal this coming season. So it also could be a rental in a sense. If Coby White doesn't work out, you just get off the money and still have some financial flexibility for next offseason. And firstly, if you guys just want to kill me in the comment section saying, oh, the Bulls would never trade Coby White for Jonathan Kuminga. Well, first of all, the Bulls are directionless. Like, they have nobody knows where they're going. They also have zero wing talent on the roster whatsoever. They have Matas Buzelis playing the 4 spot right now, and outside of that, I couldn't even name a player that has their primary position listed as small forward or power forward on the Bulls at this point. So they need a guy like Kuminga who can go out there and fill up the stat sheet in the scoring department on that wing, somebody who can penetrate the rim, and Golden State needs a player who can just fill it up as well, but provide a little bit more of a confident ball handling and floor spacing ability, and that is what Coby White can go out there and do. He is an absolute microwave, man. Could he start? Maybe, but I think his best role probably would be off of the bench for Golden State. He could be the 6th man of the year if you ran him off the bench for the Dubs, and he's running that second unit. He can get great penetration at the rim. He can hit the 3 basically from everywhere on the basketball court, and not only off the catch, but with the ball in his hands as well. He had a super high usage rate in Chicago this past season, and that's music to my ears, because we know with Steph being a 37-year-old player and Jimmy being a 36-year-old player this coming season, like, you're going to need somebody to, especially during an 82-game regular season where we want Steph and Jimmy to be as healthy and as ready to go for the postseason as possible, you need a guy who can pick up the slack in games 30 through 60 to, in those December, January months to be a big scoring help for times where, maybe Jimmy and Steph, they're taking some nights off. Like, are we going to see those guys playing 65 games the next 2 seasons? I'm not so sure that's the case. And if Golden State needs to win games during those stretches, Coby White's a guy who can go out there and do it single-handedly. He's put up multiple 40-point games last season. He's put up 35-point games. There's a stretch of the season where he averaged 30 points a night. Like, he can do this on his own, and that's what I love about adding a player like that to Golden State. Like, when Steph and Jimmy go to the bench, they need a guy who can just go out there and get buckets at the end of the day, and that's what Coby White can do. Catch and shoots last year, yeah, 38.5%. Pull up threes, good enough for me. That is above league average on pull up three-pointers. Also, step back threes, way above average, 37%. He took 81 attempts on step backs last year. Look, that doesn't necessarily fall in line with the Golden State offensive philosophy. He is an isolation scorer in that aspect, but you know what? How about they switch it up a little bit when Steph and Jimmy go to the bench and they're not running as much off-ball actions. Above the break three on 500 attempts, he shot 37.5%. This is a confident shooter, and somebody who can get into a role and get hot during the stretches where Golden State goes ice cold. And like I said before, there's this 10-game stretch back in March. He puts up 30 points a night. And yeah, it's not the most efficient. I'm sure he's chucking a good number of threes and attempts overall from the field, but he can fill it up in the scoring department, man. And Golden State just needs more players who can put the ball in the basket. Too often during the postseason, they could not. So while the Warriors make this trade, Jonathan Kuminga does not fit on this roster, plain and simple. And maybe you guys could call me a hypocrite in a sense of what I'm saying Coby White's role could be as somebody who the Golden State can kind of mold their offense around in the second unit. Well, they don't have to completely change things. And Coby White is also a good decision maker. He comes from an elite system back in college playing for Roy Williams. And he's a smart basketball player. Like, he's not going to have tunnel vision in the way that Kuminga does. He's also going to provide other things, a scrappy point of attack defender. He's going to give you a ton of effort. I have no questions about Coby White's want to win and want to contribute to team success. I have question marks around that with Jonathan Kuminga, and I think he'd be a better overall fit. And when Steph and Jimmy sit on the bench, Golden State can no longer look like a CYO team, a group of elementary school basketball players. It's honestly insane. It looks like they're playing two different sports out there. When Steph goes to the bench, I think Coby White can help that department a whole heck of a lot. While the Bulls do this trade, look, I'd be lying if I told you that trading away a 20-point per game scorer for Jonathan Kuminga straight up is a good idea for Chicago, but they need an injection of youth. They need somebody who's got untapped potential, and Jonathan Kuminga has that. Coby White also doesn't seem to be a part of their long-term plan, or else I feel like they would have already come to terms on an extension, and Kuminga can try to fill the void left by DeMar DeRozan a couple of seasons ago, where they have zero wings on this roster. They don't have a lot of off-the-bounce scoring either. Kuminga can get downhill. And they have a couple of decent shooters around that roster. You got Kevin Huerter in town as well. So there's something around Kuminga to be able to play his role or play his style of basketball. And I just don't think he fits in Golden State anymore. Bulls don't really have a premium draft pick either. So this is a 22-year-old with a lot of untapped potential that you're going to get on a decent contract, $25 million a year. Why don't they take a flyer on him when they don't look like they're going to be competing anytime soon in the Eastern Conference? And that's pretty embarrassing. Would you make this trade at the end of the day? 1-for-1. Look, Jonathan Kuminga could have a draft pick attached. Could Golden State offer up their 26th first round, or the 2026, first round pick with maybe a protection on it? That's a possibility, and I would honestly consider that. Would you? A for accept, D for decline. 1-for-1. Coby White coming to Golden State for Jonathan Kuminga in a sign and trade. Auto accept. I'm accepting it right now. Just get Coby White to the Bay Area if it means Jonathan Kuminga is the trade piece going back. There's been speculation on whether or not Golden State would want a package for a Nikola Vucevic and a Lonzo Ball and a draft pick, but I think the piece that contributes most right away and best in Golden State's system out of all these ideas that can come from Chicago is going to be Coby White. So I'm accepting this immediately, especially if I don't have to give up any draft capital.
The Warriors are not wasting time. After falling short of expectations last season, Golden State has made it clear that this offseason is about action. They're not waiting around to figure things out, but they're going after names, clearing cap space, and looking for answers. And it all starts with Jimmy Butler. Back in February, Golden State pulled off one of the most aggressive trades of the season. They sent Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, Dennis Schroeder, and a protected 2025 first-round pick to the Miami Heat. In return, they got Jimmy Butler. Then they doubled down. Butler signed a 2-year extension worth $121 million. The front office didn't blink or hesitate because they knew what they were getting. A battle-tested veteran, a two-way wing with playoff experience, and a tone setter on and off the court. That move told the league something. The Warriors are still chasing titles, and they're doing it right now. The Butler trade came with a price. Golden State gave up its 2025 first-round pick. That leaves them with only the 41st pick in the second round this year. But when you're building around Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler, development takes a backseat. The goal isn't to find the next young star, but to find the last few pieces that push this team back into championship territory. Quietly, the Warriors signed Quinton Post in early February. The 7-footer has already flashed some stretch 5 potential. He moves well. He shoots well. He doesn't need the ball to contribute. Post isn't a savior, but he's the kind of player who gives you options when someone like Draymond or Looney is out. Golden State has always valued versatility, and Post gives them that without a huge contract. Jonathan Kuminga has been one of the most talked about names this summer. He's entering restricted free agency. He has upside. He's young, but he hasn't fully clicked in Golden State's system. The Warriors could re-sign him. However, they're also exploring sign and trade deals, and that brings us to Coby White. There's been smoke around a potential Coby White and Kuminga swap. Analysts have floated the idea. Golden State sends Kuminga to the Bulls in a sign and trade. In return, they get Coby White, who just averaged over 20 points per game for Chicago. White gives the Warriors shot creation, floor spacing, and a secondary scorer next to Curry. For Chicago, Kuminga offers length, athleticism, and room to grow, something their current core lacks. The deal isn't done, but it's on the radar. Another name heavily linked to Golden State is Naz Reed. The Timberwolves' big man is expected to decline his player option and hit the market. The Warriors are currently listed as favorites to sign him, and the fit makes sense. Reed gives them scoring at the 5. He stretches the floor, rebounds, and is coming off a season where he won the NBA 6th Man of the Year. Last year, he averaged 14.2 points and 6 rebounds, shooting over 37% from 3. Reports suggest he'll command around $20 million per year. If Golden State wants him, they'll have to make room, but he checks every box they're looking for in a modern big. While they chase big names, the Warriors still have decisions to make in-house. Kevin Looney, Gary Payton II, and Quinton Post are all approaching free agency. Looney has been a fixture in the rotation, Payton is a defensive specialist, and Post is the newest piece. Golden State needs to choose. Do they keep the glue guys or reshuffle the bench to get younger and more athletic? Financial flexibility is tight, and every decision from here on out will impact the rest. The Warriors are loading up for one more run. Steph isn't getting younger, Draymond knows how this works, and Jimmy Butler didn't show up to waste time. Every move this summer seemingly tries to get back to the playoffs with a shot to win. This is bully ball, it's grit, it's about urgency. It's Golden State going back to its roots, defense, leadership, and smart basketball. Now it's your turn. Is Coby White worth giving up Kuminga? Should they go all in on Naz Reed? Or is another move coming we haven't seen yet? Let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe. More interesting breakdowns, trade updates, and off-season predictions are on the way.